Ancient Egypt worshipped hundreds of gods over 3,000 years, but some deities stood far above the rest in power and importance. This is ranking Egyptian gods from significant to absolutely supreme based on their domains, mythological power, and cultural impact. Level 1, Bastet, goddess of protection and cats. Starting at the bottom, we have the Bastet, the cat-headed goddess of protection, joy, and domesticity. Now, Bastet is beloved and important, but compared to what's coming, her power and domain are limited. Bastet was originally depicted as a fierce lioness warrior goddess, but over time she transformed into a more gentle cat form Egyptians are familiar with. She protected homes from evil spirits and disease, and she was associated with fertility and childbirth. The ancient Egyptians loved her so much they mummified millions of cats as offerings. Her main cult center was the Bubastis in the Nile Delta, and her annual festival was one of the most popular celebrations in Egypt. People would travel from all over to honor her with music, dancing, and honestly, a lot of drinking. The Greek historian Herodotus described it as one of the most important festivals. But here's the limitation. Bastet's domain is specific and domestic. She protects homes and families, which is important, but she doesn't control fundamental forces of nature or the cosmos. She doesn't judge souls or create the universe. She's a protective household deity, which is significant but not supreme. At level 1, Bastet represents the beloved but limited power of domestic protection. Before we climb higher into the pantheon, hit subscribe. These gods get exponentially more powerful. Level 2, Anubis, god of mummification and the dead. At level 2, we have Anubis, the jackal-headed god of mummification and guardian of the dead. Anubis is way more powerful than Bastet because his domain touches every single Egyptian who dies, which is everyone. Anubis is responsible for the mummification process, protecting bodies from decay and desecration. He guided souls through the dangerous journey of the underworld. In the famous weighing of the heart ceremony, Anubis was the one who placed the deceased's heart on the scale against the feather of Ma'at to determine if they were worthy of the afterlife. His cult was ancient and widespread. Every funeral, every tomb, every burial invoked Anubis. His image appears on countless artifacts, tomb walls, and funerary equipment. He was essential to Egyptian religious life because everyone needed him eventually. But here's why he's only level 2. Anubis serves a specific function in the afterlife. He's not the ruler of the underworld, he's the guide and guardian. He doesn't judge the dead, he facilitates their judgment. He's incredibly important but operates within a system controlled by more powerful gods. At level 2, Anubis represents essential but limited power over death's logistics, rather than death itself. Level 3, Set, god of chaos and storms. At level 3, we have Set, the god of chaos, storms, and the desert and violence. Set is where Egyptian mythology gets genuinely dangerous. This god represents destructive natural forces and moral chaos. Set was originally a necessary god. The desert and storms were part of the natural order, but his mythology gets dark. He murdered his brother Osiris, dismembered the body, and scattered the pieces across Egypt. He battled his nephew Horus for control of Egypt in conflicts that lasted years. He represents everything chaotic and threatening. Set's power was immense. He controlled violent storms that could destroy crops. He commanded the hostile desert that surrounded Egypt. Some pharaohs even claimed Set as their patron god, seeing his strength and ferocity as assets for warfare. He rode on Ra's solar boat, defending it from the serpent Apophis each night. But Set's limitation is that he's ultimately a force of disorder in a civilization that valued order above everything. He's powerful but destructive. He challenges the cosmic balance rather than maintaining it. Later periods of Egyptian history actually demonized him completely. At level 3, Set represents raw destructive power without the wisdom or authority to rule. Level 4, Thoth, god of wisdom and writing. At level 4, we have Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom, writing, magic, and the moon. Thoth is where we enter gods who shape civilization itself rather than just natural forces. Thoth invented writing, mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. He was the scribe of the gods, recording everything in the divine realm. In the weighing of the heart ceremony, while Anubis operated the scales, Thoth recorded the results. His word determined your eternal fate. He was also the mediator between gods, settling disputes with wisdom rather than violence. When Horus and Set fought for Egypt's throne, Thoth advocated for peaceful resolution. He gave humans the gift of language and the 365-day calendar. Literally everything about Egyptian intellectual achievement was attributed to Thoth. His cult center was the Hermopolis, and the Greeks later associated him with Hermes, creating Hermes Trismegistus, a legendary figure in Western occult tradition. That's how influential Thoth was. He influenced civilizations beyond Egypt. But Thoth's limitation is that he's an advisor and recorder, not a ruler. He has wisdom and knowledge, but he defers to more powerful gods for actual authority. He shapes how things work, but doesn't control fundamental cosmic forces. At level 4, Thoth represents the intellectual foundation of civilization without supreme authority. Level 5, Horus, god of kingship and the sky. At level 5 we have Horus, the falcon-headed god of the sky and divine kingship. Horus is where mythology directly connects to political power. Every pharaoh was considered the living embodiment of Horus on earth. Horus's mythology is central to Egyptian civilization. After Set murdered Osiris, Horus grew up to avenge his father and reclaim the throne of Egypt. The battles between Horus and Set represent the eternal struggle between chaos and order, legitimate rule and usurpation. Horus eventually won, establishing the divine right of kingship. His eyes were the sun and moon. His cult was everywhere because every temple honored the reigning pharaoh, who was Horus incarnate. The famous Eye of Horus became one of the most powerful protective symbols in Egypt, representing healing, protection, and royal power. Horus represents divine legitimacy and cosmic order. When pharaohs ruled justly, they embodied Horus. The entire political structure of Egypt for 3,000 years was built on Horus's mythology. But here's the limitation. Horus inherited his power. He's the rightful king, but he's not the creator. He maintains order that others established. He's supreme among gods of the living world, but doesn't control creation itself or judge the dead. At level 5, Horus represents ultimate earthly authority without control over the cosmos. Level 6, Osiris, god of the afterlife and resurrection. At level 6 we have Osiris, the god of the afterlife, resurrection, and judgment of the dead. Osiris rules the most important realm in Egyptian belief, the eternal afterlife. Osiris was the first pharaoh, murdered by his brother Set, who dismembered his body. His wife, Isis, gathered the pieces and resurrected him through magic, making him the first mummy and the lord of the afterlife. Every deceased Egyptian hopes to become an Osiris and live eternally in his realm. As judge of the dead, Osiris presided over the weighing of the heart ceremony. While Anubis operated the scales and Thoth recorded results, Osiris made the final judgment. He decided who achieved afterlife eternally and who was devoured by Ammit. That's absolute power over every soul. His mythology of death and resurrection made him the most personally important god to average Egyptians. Everyone needed Ra for the sun to rise, but everyone desperately needed Osiris to grant them eternal life. His cult was universal. But Osiris's limitation is that he ruled the realm of the dead, not the living cosmos. He was killed and resurrected, meaning he's not invulnerable. He judges with a system he didn't create. At level 6, Osiris represents supreme power over the afterlife without control over creation itself. Level 7, Ra, the sun god and creator. The absolute peak, Ra represents the supreme power in Egyptian mythology, the creator of existence itself and the sustainer of all life. Without Ra, nothing exists. Ra was the sun god who created himself from the primordial waters of chaos called Nun. He then created all the other gods, humans, and the entire world through his word or his tears. Every morning, Ra was reborn, sailing across the sky in his solar boat. Every night, he journeyed through the underworld, battling the serpents of chaos, Abathis, ensuring the sun would rise again. Ra's power is absolute. He's the source of life itself. Crops grow because of his light. The Nile floods because of his power. Time exists because of his daily journey. When he merged with Ammon to become Ammon-Ra during the New Kingdom, he became the hidden, unknowable supreme creator. Pharaohs called themselves Son of Ra to claim divine legitimacy. Temples aligned with his movements. The entire rhythm of Egyptian life followed Ra's daily cycle. He wasn't just worshipped, he was the fundamental explanation for existence. Here's why Ra sits alone at level 7. Every other god exists because Ra created them. Osiris judges the dead in a realm Ra created. Horus rules Earth under Ra's authority. Thoth records knowledge Ra gave. Set challenges order Ra established. Even Ra's temporary weakening in myths shows that without him, reality itself fails. Ra represents not just supreme power, but the very concept of existence, order, and eternal return. He's not just the most powerful Egyptian god, he's the reason there are Egyptian gods at all. That's why he sits alone at level 7. Most ancient pantheons have powerful gods. Egyptian mythology built 3,000 years of civilization on Ra's absolute supremacy. Drop a comment on which Egyptian god you think was most powerful, and if you want more mythology breakdowns like this, make sure you've subscribed.